Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Falcon fans. Good morning, Falcon fans. This is your host, T. Will. You can go to at Terry Wilson for my ATL Sports 1 on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. This is episode 3 of our Falcons podcast. I'm a little late this morning, so I do apologize. Just had to get myself together and had a few appointments this morning and just ended up starting a little later than normal. But with that being said, it's good to see everyone this morning. Please feel free to join the live podcast, or, if you can't watch it now, please feel free to watch it later. Either way, we're glad to have you. So, this morning we are talking Falcons football as it's always a great time to talk Falcons football. There's never a bad time to talk Falcons football. So, a couple of things. Reading an article the other day, and I saw where Bijan Robinson was explaining that he's going to be used in the CMC role, or like Christian McCaffrey. For those of you who don't know who Christian McCaffrey is, that's a running back for the 49ers. A very good running back, an excellent running back, if you want to know the truth. Um, and apparently, the plan is to give him the CMC treatment. So I guess he'll be running the ball a lot. He'll be catching the ball a lot. He'll be doing everything. CMC is sort of a Swiss Army knife. So I thought that was interesting in seeing that. I don't know how accurate that is. As you know, if I'm the Falcons, I don't necessarily want to burn Bijan out, you know? So, I mean, that could be his interpretation, or that could be the actual truth, and not to say that Bijan isn't being honest. I think that's just his interpretation of it. Whether or not the Falcons will do it, I'm not sure. Um, I mean, hey, I'd love to see the offense feature Bijan on a regular basis, which it should. But when you talk about CMC, you're talking about a three down, sometimes a four down back, and I don't know about that. I don't know about the impact on the body, the hits you take. Bijan, to me, the way it was explained when we drafted him, is a once in a lifetime player, or a generational player, and I just don't think you necessarily want to burn him out, by using him every three or four downs. So this was certainly interesting to me. Now, maybe they use him, I don't know, first and second down. Maybe you bring in Tyler third down, or maybe you use him first down and third down, or however the combination is. I just want to make sure we get a healthy dose of Tyler Algier for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a change of pace, right? It is a definite change of pace. And, number two, and most importantly, um, you can save them for the playoffs, right? You don't want to get to the playoffs and all of a sudden your main running back is tired or has dead leg or whatever you want to call it. So you definitely want to use him wisely, right? You don't want to burn him out. You don't want to tire him out. You don't want him to get injured. So if it were me, and I'm looking at a two back system, it's probably 60% Bijan, maybe 40% Tyler. Um, or if you have the third back that we drafted from Alabama, I believe, maybe it's 55, 35 and 5% to the back running up. But anyway, this article is from Field Level Media. And essentially, what they're saying is Bijan is going to be used in that role. They're going to use him more. Um, and he's really looking forward to it, right? So Quote, having a guy Cousins out there and really show it, it's been fun to have him. So he's looking forward to working with Kirk Cousins. He's excited. Last quote says, I'm going to be more of a runner that does everything else. I guess as opposed to being someone that does everything and also runs. So I guess the focus that they're going to utilize him out of is running, which makes sense because we got a bunch of burners as wide receivers. So maybe the pass distribution to Bijan isn't what it was, which, let's be honest, due to quarterback play last year, I don't know how often Bijan got passes out of the backfield anyway. But suffice it to say, I guess they're going to emphasize running with Bijan going forward. And that's fine. Again, Bijan is a dynamic back, fundamentally sound, just, all around great back. So, however the Falcons want to use it, that's fine. I'm good with it. My only concern, my main concern, is just that in utilizing him, you don't want to overutilize him because again, it's a long season. You're talking about 17 games, and if you're going to make a deep playoff run, you're talking about maybe 20 or 21 games, right? So if you're using Bijan 90% of the time, by the time you get to that 18th, 19th, 20th, he's not going to have anything left, right? So that's just my concern with that. But I'm not a coach in the NFL. I never played the game in the NFL. I'm sure that Raheem and Zach Robinson and a litany of other coaches are far more aware of what they're doing, and I'm sure they will maximize Bijan's ability and skill set and his utilage. So I think he will be fine. I just thought that was interesting because when I first think of CMC, I think of his time with Carolina. He was always injured and he was overutilized. And then you send him to San Francisco where, he's got peers and he's got other receivers and the show doesn't have to be on him. Now, there are games where it is on him, but for the most part, it's not CMC or nothing. If we don't get CMC going, then, that's just it, right? So I really feel like if you're talking utilization as far as Bijan Robinson is concerned, if you're talking about the way the 49ers use him, great, no problem. But if you're talking about the way the Carolina Panthers used him, I don't know if I want to see that because, again, I think they overutilized him and probably because they didn't have much else on the roster. But Bijan is young. I'd like to see him spend 10 years here with the Falcons. And the only way you're going to do that is to be wise and economical with his usage. So that's just my thoughts. I thought that was interesting. Next, we have ESPN predicting that the Falcons will win 9.6 games next year. And I disagree. I think the article's by Seth Walder, but I disagree with this completely. Um, if you want to know the truth, I legitimately feel like Falcons are going to win 12 games next year. And I feel that way because this offense is going to be a juggernaut. Like this offense, again, look at the weapons that we have. My only concern for this offense is whether or not McCrary can pass block because that's not his strong suit, right? Great run blocker. And if we can get him to be an adequate pass blocker, then we really have something. The rest of the offensive line, I don't really worry about pass blocking. I think they're solid. I think they are a good unit. I think overall the Falcons have a good offensive line unit. My concern is just from time to time you do see McCrary, I don't know why I can't say that word, but you do see McCrary struggle sometimes in pass blocking. And hey, maybe you put a tight end to the right of McCrary and kind of help him out. Or maybe you have a tight end chip as he's going out on a pass, or maybe you have Bijan stay back and pass block, or chip in blocking as he's going out. I'm sure they will come up with a collage or mixture or hodgepodge of these strategies as to how we can help out McCrary. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to him. Now, we do have an adequate backup, I believe, in Storm Nixon. So, to the extent that you do see McCrary struggle, you could see Storm Nixon in. That's a very real possibility. Now, whether or not it'll happen, that remains to be seen. But to me, that is the only, I don't want to say question mark, but, maybe I will say the only question mark in regards to the Falcons on offense. Everything else is solid, right? Um, we were just talking about Bijan. Bijan is solid, right? Well, let's start with Kirk. Kirk is solid, right? Kirk is throwing 4,500 yards a season for the past 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. So Kirk is solid, very solid. You don't have to worry about that. Bijan is solid. An above average runner, one cut and go guy, can follow and set up his blocks. Excellent receiver out of the backfield. Excellent route running as far as coming out of the backfield. You can put him in the slot at times. Tyler Algier is a bulldozer, just runs over people. And he didn't have the greatest season last year, but, again, a lot of that can be attributed to other factors. But you got Bijan out of the backfield. You got Drake London, who I think is poised to have a breakout season this year, right? Let's we not forget, Drake has had different quarterbacks. Drake has had, I don't know if Drake had Matt. I don't know if Drake had Matt, but he definitely had Mariota, and he definitely had Ritter, and he definitely had Heineke. So, you give Drake some decent quarterback play, and I legitimately feel like Drake could go off 4,000, 1,200, 13 yards, right? So you got Drake, you got Kyle Pitts, who is loving the fact that we now have a decent quarterback who can get him the ball, right? Even when they were going back and forth about Kirk's jersey, the joke was, hey, man, you don't have to give me any money. Just throw me the ball in the end zone, right? Give me the ball. So you got Kyle, you got Drake, you got Mooney, you got Rondale Moore. You got Washington, one of the guys that we drafted that, from my understanding, is looking pretty darn good in OTAs, right? You got Ray McLeod. You got speed all over the field. Yes, you do have a new offensive coordinator. I will give you that. But I guess the reason that I feel so good about it is everywhere that Zach Robinson has gone, he's been a communicator, right? He gets the most out of people, and he's versatile. Last year, he wasn't even a quarterback's coach, he was a receivers coach, and he got the most out of a fifth round draft pick named Nakua. Before that, I believe he was an offensive coordinator, but he also worked for PFF, and all he did was study quarterbacks, study their movements, study their skill sets, and assess what would the best option be as far as the offense that they would go into, the plays that would be run. Like, he really did a deep dive on this. So I think under his tutelage, and he's a student of Sean McVay. So I think under his tutelage, this offense will not only be good, it will be great. And it will be great because, it's one thing to have a firm command of X's and O's, right? Like, Kyle Shanahan has a very firm command of X's and O's. But Kyle, unbeknownst to a lot of people, is a very detailed, very meticulous communicator. Um, I've seen this. There's a clip, and maybe the clip's not there anymore, but there's essentially a practice when Kyle was with the Falcons where he's telling Matt, all right, when you throw it, you have to throw it at this particular depth. So with Kyle, with all of his routes, they have to be precise. So if it's a 5 yard out, it's a 5 yard out. It's not six, it's not four, it's not seven, it's not an approximation, it's 5 yard out, right? Maybe accompanied by a 10 or 12 yard out, maybe accompanied by, I don't know, a slant or a drag or a post across the field where the receiver ends up 30 yards down the field and the quarterback has three different options on one particular side, right? And there's probably a tight end on the other side sneaking clean across on the other side that's going to be wide open because all of the traffic goes to the side with three receivers. That's typically Kyle. But the point is, when diagnosing these plays, when installing these plays, right, his communication is meticulous. It is to the letter. So much so that Kyle had Matt to run this play. Matt threw it, and Kyle stood up and intercepted it. And he says to Matt, "Why did I intercept this ball?" He said, "I intercepted the ball because your receiver is not where he needs to be. No, this isn't your fault. Your receiver is not where he needs to be." Right? Again, meticulous, distinct communication. And I believe Zach Robinson is that type. Now, as far as the delivery of the message, I don't know. Kyle can be a bit direct at times. I don't know Zach Robinson. But those who work with him seem to blossom. They seem to do well. All you got to do is ask Nakua from the Rams. He raves about the guy. So this is the guy that we have running our offense. It makes me feel like our receiving routes will be crisp, on time, and where they need to be. Right. So you add all of that up, and to me, in my humble opinion, that equals 28 to 30 points a game. 28 to 30 points a game. Now, our defense, they're probably going to give up 20 points a game. So you score 30, you give up 20, you're going to win most games. Yeah, there'll be outliers and things that happen. But I have the Falcons as winning at least 11 games. And I'm pretty confident about it. Like it could be 13, 14. But in my humble opinion, again, I didn't play the game. I'm not a coach. I'm not a professional analyst for one of the big four networks. But in my humble opinion, and I do watch Falcons football and have watched it for sheesh, 50, well, okay, I was three. I'd say at least 45 years I've been watching Falcons football. I'm confident about that. This particular team I've watched. So I legitimately feel like this team can easily win 11 games. Again, according to the NFL, we have one of the easiest schedules. Now, that's on paper, right? Fair enough. That's on paper. And a lot of championships, most championships are not won on paper. You got to go out to the field. You got to do it. You got to execute. I get it. But the bottom line is 9.6 games. Yeah, I don't I don't see that, right? I don't see that. I see 11 games at a minimum, potentially 12. I see a first round bye. I see a Division One or divisional round playoff victory. That's what I see for the Falcons this year. This offense is going to score points, and our defense is going to defend very well. Lest we not forget, we have retooled and reassembled our defensive line. So we have depth now, right? Last year, Grady goes out. Anyamata goes out. Well, why did we suffer? Well, we didn't necessarily have depth. This year we do. We have depth in spades. So, you know, our defensive line is pretty good. Our linebacking core is excellent. Troy Anderson, Nate Landman, Ellis, the guy they drafted in the draft, I can never remember his name, so forgive me. But I think this front seven is as good as anybody's in the league. Even though you don't have a star rusher, if all components are healthy, You have the pieces you need to dominate right now, or at least be a top 10 defense. And if you're scoring 30 points a game, believe you me, a top 10 defense is more than adequate, right? So I kind of feel like they undersold the Falcons a little bit, you know. I really do. Um, but again, that's one man's opinion. Doesn't necessarily make it right. Doesn't necessarily make it accurate. But again, guys, I feel like this offense is going to be legendary if we can pass protect Kurt, right? I'm not I'm not even talking about the fact that you got Michael Penix on the bench with a rocket arm, with a dynamic pass, I would say pocket presence, right? So when he's being rushed, when he's being blitzed, he does a very good job of stepping up in the pocket. Now, his success is going to be determined as to whether or not he can diagnose defenses when they're coming at him, right? And again, he's a rookie. He's got 2 years, hopefully. So all things being equal, all things being as they should, this Falcons team is going to score points in bunches. Gonna score points in bunches, right? We're not talking about the fact that we got Ray McLeod returning kicks. I mean, again, Ray McLeod is an excellent kick returner and punt returner. Excellent. So you add all of that up, I really think the Falcons are going to score 28 to 30 points a game. And if you do that, and if you're giving up 28 points, hey man, you're going to win a lot of games. So that's just my opinion. Not going to beat a dead horse, but I think they got this one wrong. So yeah, you know. Now, last article, and this one is from Jay Busby, but it essentially says Super Dad Kirk Cousins is already commanding the room in Atlanta. And how's he doing this? Well, he's doing movie quotes, right? He's quoting movies because he's obviously the elder statesman in the locker room. Well, in most cases, he's older than a lot of younger guys. Um, so I guess he's doing movie quotes, and I guess he did one from what's the movie Heavyweights with Ben Stiller, and it was just crickets in the locker room, right? It was crickets. It was literal crickets because I guess nobody recognized it. And that's cool, Kurt. You know what I mean? I'm older than you. I'm an older dude, so I know all about that life. But just in looking at this, it kind of took me back and I don't know, made me think about some movies that, they're my top five, right? You know, we got a few minutes. So my top five movies from the 90s and early 2000s. Number one would be Shawshank Redemption. Let me tell you something. Great movie, outstanding movie. Enjoyed it. Um, I think it's a true testament to persistence, a true testament to resiliency. If you don't know anything about this movie, it's essentially written. The book was written. It's from a book written by Stephen King, which is weird because it's not a horror movie, right? And when we think of Stephen King, we think of horror movies. Great film. Great film. So essentially, this young man is married to this young lady, and she's cheating, and she ends up. I guess the guy she's cheating with is rather wealthy and affluent, and ends up getting robbed, and they both get murdered, and he is blamed for the murder and goes to jail for 20 years. And I think the main character's name is Andy Dufresne. And essentially, when you look at Andy, you don't think anything of him. He's an excellent CPA, an excellent tax guy, one of the smartest guys available. And just the movie is how he endears himself to a group of prisoners that are there, the friendships that he forms, the alliances that he forms, the things he's able to get done while in prison, while the whole time planning his escape and what he's going to do. And again, it is a true testament to persistence. One of my favorite quotes from that movie is, Get busy living or get busy dying. That's goddamn right. That was Morgan Freeman, who's also in the movie. So again, one of my top five great movies. Next on the list would be Pulp Fiction, and Pulp Fiction is not for everybody. It is a polarizing film. My wife hated it. My brother and I loved it. My youngest brother and I, Victor, loved it. Like that is probably one of the best times we've ever had together. We laugh so loud. The movie has Samuel Jackson. It's got John Travolta. It's got Bruce Willis. It's got Ving Rhames. It's got a litany of other stars. It's by Quentin Tarantino, and it is hilarious, right? And one of my favorite quotes from that movie is, "Say what again? Say what one more GD time? I dare you. I double dog dare you." And it's Samuel Jackson. He's intimidating this guy that he's getting ready to kill, and it's just hilarious. The dialogue in that movie, the repartee between the characters, the back and forth is second to none. I think it's one of Quentin's most excellent works, and I really enjoy it. Any given Sunday, great movie. My favorite part is Al Pacino's famous locker room speech in which he says, the inches that we need are around us. They are everywhere in life. Uh, the guy that's going to win a fight is the guy that's going to crawl, scratch, do anything for that inch. He closed it by saying, either we win as a team or we will die as individuals. One of the greatest monologues, halftime speeches, movie speeches I've ever seen in my life. Love it. Next for me would be Carlito's Way. And I just, you know what? I like the narration in that movie. The narration is by Al Pacino. Those of you who know me know I love Al Pacino as an actor, one of my favorites. Just an all around great performer, all around great guy. Love him. A lot of people like Scarface. I just, to me, I like the character more in Carlito's Way. Scarface, he's a young guy trying to get out there and get it, make a name for himself. Carlito's Way, he's trying to get out of the game, right? He's been in the game, he's been to jail, he's got a second chance. This movie is about redemption. He's trying to get out of the game. And one of my favorite quotes, I'm sorry, from that movie is, "Favor gonna kill you quicker than a bullet." And that is true. That is true. I've come to find that true. Last but not least, favorite movie on my top five, Remember the Titans. Love Remember the Titans. That movie is filled with, I mean, a plethora of quotes that, people utilize every day and don't realize it. But, one of them, and I'm paraphrasing here, was, you drop a pass, you run a mile. You miss a block, you run a mile. You fumble my football, and I will break my foot off in your John Brown hind parts. And then you will run a mile. Perfection. That's it. That's with Denzel Washington. It's a Disney movie. It's a great story of how one team came together with a black head coach and a white assistant coach in the late 60s, early 70s to combat racism and win a championship. Phenomenal story. True testament to courage, patience, love, teamwork, all of the above. One of my favorite movies still to this day. Whenever I watch it, I kind of tear up a little bit. But again, guys, those are my top five. So thank you for, giving me a little of your time today. Really appreciate that. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. Uh, this is a daily show, so Monday through Friday, typically between 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. I'm sorry, or 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Just depends on the content that I have and the mood that I'm in. So, with that being said, gonna do some shout outs. Again, before I do that, it's at Terry Wilson for my ATL Sports 1 on YouTube. And the ATL in that is capitalized. So, at Terry Wilson for my ATL Sports 1. Please like and subscribe if you should so choose. Please come back tomorrow. I'm here every morning, going to be here every day, Monday through Friday. I'm also a member of the One Time for the Fan podcast group. Now, we typically broadcast Sunday evenings at 8 p.m., Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m., and Friday mornings at 9 a.m. So please also be sure to tune into that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you this morning for giving me a little bit of your time. I appreciate it. Enjoyed you guys. My shout outs, number one, shout out to God. Thank him every day for waking up. Thank him for being the person that he is. Thank him for getting me through this thing that I'm going. A lot of you guys know that my mom recently passed a couple of weeks ago. So I'm dealing with that. But again, trying to get through it, trying to push forward, trying to move. One of the promises that I did make to her was that I was going to get this podcast up and running and up and off the ground. And that is most assuredly what I'm trying to do. So I want to thank God for that. Love and miss you, Mom. I want to thank my family for supporting me. My wife, Kimberly, my son, Zachary, my daughter, Mariah, my daughter, Maya, my mother in law, a host of litany of others. Want to thank Jack Spade, the host of the One Time for the Fan podcast, my friend and podcast partner. Want to thank Eric Parker, my brother, who pushed me to get into this. And Eric, I love you. I appreciate you. Shout out to my brother Victor Wilson. Shout out to my friends at work. You know who you are. Shout out to my family. Guys, again, thank you. Looking forward to talking Falcons with you tomorrow. And you guys have an awesome, fantastic, productive, and wonderful day.